What is probate? Explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old. Great, let's do it. Let's speak in really plain English. The term probate is thrown around a lot, but what is it? Obtaining probate is the first step in administering an estate. So it's the first step that needs to be taken by executors to start progressing an estate. When someone dies with a will, the process is called obtaining probate. When someone dies without a will, the process is called something different. It's called letters of administration. But let's just talk about probate. Once someone dies and there's a will, that will appoint executors. And the executors are the people who control the estate and who are responsible to fulfill the will. One of the duties of the executors is to obtain a grant of probate from the Supreme Court. A grant of probate is a court order given by the Supreme Court that authorises the executors to deal with the estate. To enable the executors to apply for probate, the executors must identify all of the assets and liabilities of the deceased person and value those assets. And they must prepare a schedule or an inventory of the assets and liabilities. The executors must have the original will, and they need to do searches to check that there's no other will that's recent or out there. Once the executors have done those things, the executors then need to prepare a statement known as an affidavit that sets out the searches they've done for any other will and the reasons that they know that the will that they have is a valid and the most recent will and the will that should be used. The statement also includes the executor's interpretation of the will. So who do the executors think that the estate goes to? Who are the beneficiaries? So once the executors have done that affidavit, that statement, they then send that and the original will to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court, in giving a grant of probate, will check the will. They will firstly check, is it a valid will? Is it signed on every page? Are there two witnesses? Is it dated? Does it meet the elements of a will? If it does, then the Supreme Court will then check, well, what does this will actually say? Who are the executors? Are they the people who are applying? Great. The Supreme Court will then go, okay, well, what is this will doing? Who are the beneficiaries? Who gets what in this will? Okay, great. Is that the same as what the executors have said in their affidavit statement? So the Supreme Court want to check that the executor's interpretation of the will is actually correct. If the Supreme Court is happy with all of that, it's a valid will, the executors have interpreted the will right, they've identified the assets, they've identified which beneficiary gets what, then the Supreme Court verify and validate the will, and they will issue a grant of probate to the executors that authorises the executors to start dealing with the estate, closing bank accounts, selling real estate. They can't do any of that until they have the grant of probate. So the process of probate really is a safeguarding exercise. It's checking that the executors have got everything right, they've identified all the assets, the will is a valid will, it's going to all the right people, and they issue this grant of probate, which is a court order, and that grant of probate will have to be shown to the banks. The banks will want to check that, okay, these executors are the right people, they've got a grant of probate, the court's checked that they're getting this right, and we're releasing money to the right people to go to the right beneficiaries. Obtaining probate, there's a lot of paperwork involved and it does take some time to identify all of the assets, interpret the will and draft the documents for probate. It can take a few weeks or even a month, 2-3 months to get that ready. And then once we send it to the Supreme Court for them to check it and validate and verify it, they often have quite a queue. So once I submit it to the Supreme Court in New South Wales at the moment, it's taking about 10 to 12 weeks for them to process that application and even look at it. So obtaining probate is often quite slow going, and people often do think it's difficult just because of how slow the process can be at times. But I think getting probate's a great thing. I think someone actually checking that executors aren't just going off and doing whatever they want is great. Wills are really important and the courts need to check that those wills are being followed, the executors have got it right. And banks, companies, organisations need to make sure before that they just hand out assets or money to people that someone's actually checked this will is a legal will and it's all going to the right people. Hopefully I have explained that in plain English enough. If I haven't, ask questions. The more we talk about these processes, the more people will have information and it won't be as scary to do. I feel like a lot of people have negative feelings about the estate process and obtaining probate because they just don't have realistic expectations about the timeframes and they don't have the information or know what the solicitors are actually doing.